Hello, this is Socially Triggered, and this video is going to be on the black-white wage gap, or the myth of the disparities between blacks and whites within America, and how blacks are being discriminated in terms of the wealth that they earn and in terms of their overall success within the American society. And I kind of want to show you two things with this. I want to show you the income disparities, and I also want to show you the wealth gap that exists between blacks and whites. And I want you to know what the case is that they make for these disparities, why they believe these exist, and I want to show you some debunks to sort of make you understand why these disparities exist and why maybe it's not such a problem after all. So quickly, I want to sort of show you a very cool quote that I love. There are lies, damn lies, and statistics by Mark Twain. He said that line. And I really do believe that this quote kind of summarizes what my video is going to be about, and is where there's these lies that we're being told, but they're not necessarily lies. It's just misuse of statistics. You can sort of use statistics in many ways, and ways that kind of can prove whatever case you're trying to make. I'm going to be using them to make my case in a way. So, take that with a grain of salt, I guess. So statistics can be used in many ways to show, like, oh, you can say this group is being discriminated against because look at the stats. They show that that group is being discriminated against. And I'm going to show you how they make their case, and I'm going to show you the debunk for their case. So first, let me get into the case that is often made. One of the things that is often said, and I'll just show you this, is the disparity that exists between the wages earned by blacks and whites. And what they do is they look at over time, it's actually gotten worse. It was 21% difference in wage between blacks versus whites, and a little bit worse in 2007, 23.5% difference. And then there's a 26% difference in 2019. So you say, wow, it's getting worse, and there's a huge disparity. Why are blacks getting paid 70 cents on the dollar compared to a white person? And you must assume a couple things. This is similar to the women versus men wage gap as well. You must assume, based on the way that they want you to follow the narrative, that blacks are being discriminated against. They're not being paid as much as a white person for the same job. Well, this stat has nothing to do with the same jobs. So first of all, you have to understand that it's just looking at overall individuals. How much does the overall black person get paid compared to the overall white person? And there's a disparity in wages between about 26% right now. That on average, a black person will earn 26.5% less than a white person. Now, that doesn't look at their education. That doesn't look at the job choices. It doesn't look at all these other things that could be factors. And I'm going to show you one factor that really kind of outweighs all the others. But, so you got to understand that this is the stat that they use, and I'm going to show you how to debunk it. And you can sort of already think of some debunks. If you know about the feminist wage gap, male to female wage gap myth, well, some of that applies to this as well. So that's the first thing that they kind of put forth, that there's this wage differential. The second thing that they put forth is this concept of household wealth, that black households on average are much, much poorer than okay, wait, let me just pull it up here. Where is it? I got to make sure I show you the right graph here. I want to make sure I'm showing you the right thing. Okay, so this is probably the best one. So if you look at the median net worth, and this is household net worth, you see whites here. This is roughly, I think the stat is roughly $176,000, and the average black household is like 17,000 or like $10,000. It's much less. Okay, so you see, wow, that's a huge disparity, right? That the average white household is worth so much more than the average black household. Now that ignores a whole bunch of factors like average white household, will be two parents. Okay, so that's two income earners versus the average black household being one income earner, which is usually the woman. Women generally make less than men, so that's another big factor that has to be understood. It's just the truth in America is that black households are primarily led by a woman and are generally single mother households, where it's like 73% of black households are single mother. It's just the way it is. Whereas compared to white households, it's like 30 some odd percent are single mother households. So just having that extra parent means that that household can have so much more wealth. And that's a huge, huge factor within this whole wage wealth gap kind of disparity. Well, actually, wealth gap disparity. Just having that extra parent makes a huge difference. But there's something bigger than all of this. So if you look at this, this is showing that I think it's roughly 10 times more wealth within the white household versus the black household. Now, I kind of want to show you my major debunk, and I'm going to sort of wrap up my video very shortly with this. And my major breakdown that sort of shows you why this kind of fails is that this is sort of looking at ages. Now, if you look at white people, on average, they're 58 years old. So they're fairly old people, white people. And if you look at Hispanics, they're on average, the average median age is 11 years old. For blacks, it's actually 27. Okay? So if you think about it, just sort of a common kind of idea to understand, a common thing to think about is, well, compare yourself. If like I'm like 47 now, I'm getting fairly old. And I think about myself when I was 27. When I was 27, I was just thinking about buying a house. I was fairly poor. I was fairly, I was just sort of in between careers. I was just getting started out. I just got married. I was pretty young in terms of my career. I didn't really know what my career was at that time. I didn't have much money. I maybe had like 20,000 in the bank, and that was after working abroad for 3 years. So I was pretty poor overall. Now I own like a multi-million-dollar home. Which has no mortgage. I have like a huge amount of assets that I built up other than my house. I have a much higher paying job. I own my own company. I'm much better off. And that's within that time frame of only, 20 years. Okay? So 20 years makes a huge difference in terms of how much I've progressed and in terms of how much most people progress. Now, if I go 10 more years into the future, well, my wealth will only grow that much more. It actually grows quicker as you get a little bit older. It's kind of interesting. So it starts out slow and then it gradually grows and it grows, and it grows really fast. Actually, your peak earning years are in your late 40s, early 50s. And that's just true for most people, that those are the years that you get the most money. You're just the most well off at that time. So if you think about it, well, average 58-year-old, and you're comparing it to average of 28 or 27, you're going to have a huge disparity in terms of the wealth that they have. That younger people are generally poorer than richer people. Okay, and that shouldn't be a great surprise to anyone. Now, I'm going to show you the wealth gap versus, just this is not looking at racial things anymore. This is just purely looking at the wealth gap that exists across the board for by age. So if you're under 35, generally your household income, if it's a 35-year-old household, like, or younger, it's going to be around 11,000 that household will have. It's not that much money. Whereas a 55-year-old household will generally have an income of around 147,000. That's 14 times more wealth that household has as the person that's in charge of that household gets older. And if you look at the wage gap between young versus old, it's kind of similar things, that there's a huge wage gap between people that are young and old. It just makes sense. You just imagine applying for a job. You say, well, I have 1 year experience versus saying I have 20 years experience. It makes a huge difference in terms of how much money you can ask for when doing that job. You have all that experience, you have all that knowledge, you can go for that more high-end job. So obviously, this applies to the demographics. So if you have like two different racial groups, blacks versus whites, where the average white person is 58 and the average black person is 27, well, that makes a huge difference in terms of how much income they earn and how much wealth that they'll have. So that's kind of my debunk. I hope this helps. So if people ever ask you about, oh, there's so much systematic racism. Look, blacks have this much less wealth. They earn this much less. Well, mention this kind of age point to them and show them how it kind of debunks the whole narrative that blacks are being discriminated against in terms of wealth. I actually believe that blacks have just as much potential to earn big money as white people, and they will do generally better over time. And it might be the case that the wealth gap between blacks and whites might not actually exist, or might actually exist in the way that's reverse to what we intuitively believe, that that white people are making more than black people. It might be actually the opposite way around, where blacks actually earn more than whites. It's really hard to determine this when the two groups are so different. The education levels are different. The family makeups are different, and also the ages are so different. Like comparing a group where the average is 58 to a group that's on average 27, huge differences in the way that they do things. It's just not a fair comparison. It's like apples to oranges kind of comparison. So back to Mark Twain, there's lies, damn lies, and there's statistics. And this is one of those things where it's a damn lie that's being created by statistics. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment below and check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.